Trendsetter Crypto TV. I'm your gracious host, Solo. Guys, today I'm going to do a quick reaction video to former Republican candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. For those who don't know, he was running for president, entrepreneur, and he's a guy, I'm not going to lie, guys, I liked him. He did step out of the race, and now he's co-signing Trump, so kudos to him. And he's going to talk about the SEC and crypto, okay? Also CBDCs. I think, guys, this is very important. I've talked about CBDCs for the last 2 years. I'm not saying I'm the first, but what I'm saying is that you go all the way back to 2009 and people were talking about CBDCs back then that were in crypto, okay? So I'm not saying I'm the first, but what I'm saying is for whatever reason, and I've noticed this on my channel too, when this conversation gets talked about, it seems like people don't take it seriously or gloss over it. So yeah, guys, another CBDC video for the week. Let's get straight into it. Here we go.
Let's talk about some of those regulatory agencies, because one of them, the Securities and Exchange Commission, at least until Congress says otherwise, oversees, say, crypto. And you had a whole crypto platform when you were running. Would you like to be SEC chair, or you don't think there should be an SEC chair?
So look, I don't think that that's particularly a right specific role for me or whatever, but I do have strong views on what I...
And let me just say this. What has the SEC done in the last 4 years? Oh, wait. They called XRP a security just for that to be reversed 3 years later, right? Gary Gensler, what has he really done since he's been an SEC chair for nearly 4 years? He's been in the SEC. What has he done in regards to crypto regulations, giving clarity? The only thing that he can really hang his hat on is approving ETFs. And to many critics, myself included, that should have been approved 4 years ago.
I think the future of clarity in regulation needs to be. So there's certain agencies that can be shut down even without congressional action. You could take the Department of Education is in that category. The ATF is in that category. Actually, the FBI is in that category. Those are agencies that can be shut down by presidential action, all the way going back to the Presidential Reorganization Act in 1977. For legal reasons, the SEC doesn't fit that description, but I do think a lot of these agencies, SEC, FDA, etc.
And as I said before, I've been in the crypto space now for nearly 7 years. As of May 2017, that'll be officially 7 years. The SEC, the only thing that I can say that they've done to give something is ETFs. But in terms of giving regulatory clarity, they haven't done anything. Gary Gensler, with his Mr. Burns looking face, right? All he does is talk around the rosy, you know, just talk in circles, right? Get it? Ring around the rosy, going in circles. He hasn't done anything. And what has this done to the crypto market? It has caused delay. It has caused fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And I've mentioned this publicly many times before. I think the SEC is there to slow the growth of crypto down because they don't want people to partake in the wealth transfer. They don't want people to have their own sovereignty, to have their own freedom in how they move their currency, how they move their digital assets. And guys, all the SEC, in my opinion, has done is sabotage us. Let's continue.
Need drastic reductions in headcount and drastic reform in their scope of focus. And a lot of these agencies, the SEC included, I think have been guilty of a regulation by enforcement agenda, where the way you know what the regulations are is based on who they enforce them against. And I think that's wrong, regardless of you're talking about a Democrat administration or Republican administration. We're a nation of laws, not of men. And one of the most important Supreme Court cases of our lifetime came out last year. It's West Virginia versus EPA, which said that the EPA's regulations of the coal industry were unconstitutional because Congress never gave them that authority.
And when he said we're a country of laws and not of men, unfortunately what happens is that laws get corrupted by men. Laws get passed by men. And sometimes, unfortunately, men think that they're above the law. And guys, you have to understand that when it comes to the SEC, we're in 2024. And when we talk about America, there are other countries, when it comes to crypto development, they're further ahead than America. And a lot of people think, well, it doesn't really matter. It certainly does, because we're not just talking about cryptocurrency in the form of peer-to-peer, but also about the blockchain technology and how that can interact in other sectors. For example, you can utilize blockchain with AI, right? And how other countries and companies can utilize that and spur growth. And meanwhile, all the SEC is doing is basically trying to attack crypto because they don't want you to become rich. That's their only worry about it. When they don't even realize that they're holding back technological advancement that can help to spur growth in other sectors. Okay, let's continue.
Well, if those regulations are unconstitutional, I think most federal regulations, including those from SEC to EPA to FDA to many other three-letter agencies, are also unconstitutional today. So given that foundation laid by the Supreme Court last year, given the possibility for the election of an America First president, which I think is going to happen, I think Donald Trump is going to be the next president, there's a real opportunity to rein in the administrative state and to restore what our founding fathers envisioned, which is three co-equal branches of government that are accountable to the people rather than an unconstitutional fourth branch of government of unelected bureaucrats that are the ones actually setting policy today. So if I were to be elected the president, I'm not this time, but if I were to have been elected the president.
It's all good, brother. I hope maybe, Trump will have you in the White House regardless. If not as a VP, maybe in some sort of a role, because I salute Vivek, guys. The reason why I salute him is because he is the first candidate that I've heard speak openly about cryptocurrencies the way that he has, not just in regards to that he's a crypto-friendly candidate, or he was a crypto-friendly candidate, he's not running anymore, but also he addressed CBDCs, and he actually had a conversation with Trump about CBDCs, and we'll get into that here in just a moment.
President, that would have been my top focus. That's how you unlock the economy. That's how you fix the justice system. That's how you revive our constitutional republic. And so whatever role I have inside or outside of government, and there's a lot of ways to change this country even outside of government, it's going to be to continue to move the ball forward to revive that constitutional vision that our country was founded on.
Donald Trump mentioned you last night. What did you tell him when it comes to central bank digital currency? You mentioned that.
Yeah, so we spoke about this, I want to say a little under a week ago. The first time we spoke about it was backstage before he and I spoke side by side at an earlier rally.
He said, this is for Vivek.
Yeah.
What's he going to do for you?
Well, I think that is to do the right thing for the country. And so what I talked to him about was a few ideas that I felt like would appeal to libertarians who I believe should be supporting Donald Trump, but also are consistent with Donald Trump's America First vision. And I want to give him credit because I think a lot of the media misportrays this man. They portray him in one way. What I see, and I've gotten to know him over the last several years, but especially even in recent weeks and days, is somebody who wants to carefully actually evaluate what's the right policy for the country. A central bank digital currency, I believe, is a threat to liberty in this country because it creates a mechanism for the government to be able to wipe out your bank account or wipe out your dollars if you say or do something that the government disapproves of.
And see, guys, I've said the same thing in the video that I posted on Monday. Remember, this interview just came out last night. I did not know that Vivek was going to say that, right? But in the video that I mentioned that the government would be able to control your spending, right? And I didn't just mention that on Monday. I've mentioned that a year ago. I mentioned that in 2022, that they could freeze or seize your assets. They already are doing that with the digital yuan in China. That is China's version of CBDCs, right? Nigeria just came out with their own CBDCs. They call it the e-Naira. What am I saying, guys? Different countries are going to have their own version of CBDCs. For example, Britain is having something known as the digital pound. I put you guys on that 2021, telling you that Britain was working with Electronium and Quant. That's why I told you guys, look into Electronium and Quant. Not financial advice, but, look into that. You know what I'm saying? And so the reality, guys, is that they can freeze and seize your assets. They can program your spending, meaning that they have the capability of prohibiting you from buying certain goods and limiting your spending, okay? And then, guys, I'm going to wind this back because we're going to talk about the mark of the beast a little bit. I know I got to be careful on YouTube how much I say, but I already made a video last year showing you evidence that the CBDCs will be the gateway to the mark of the beast. Now, I'm not here to say, guys, that this is me telling you this or whatever, because all glory is to God. It's not to me. But when it's time to talk about this real information, all of a sudden people don't care because people think when we talk about CBDCs, it's not going to affect them. Listen, if you live in India, if you live in China, if you live in Ghana, if you live in Nigeria, if you live in Brazil, CBDCs are coming for your country. Okay? CBDCs are not just an American thing. It's a global thing. That's why they call it a global system, okay? Read between the lines. Now, let's rewind this and continue.
Weeks and days is somebody who wants to carefully actually evaluate what's the right policy for the country. A central bank digital currency, I believe, is a threat to liberty in this country because it creates a mechanism for the government to be able to wipe out your bank account or wipe out your dollars if you say or do something that the government disapproves of, as you see in places like China. As you see even happen to the Canadian truckers, the Freedom Envoy, losing access to their financial bank accounts. I think
and as you see happening in Nigeria with the e-Naira, that's why Nigerians are not using the e-Naira. Go to Nigeria right now. Ask them, are you using the e-Naira? No. That's why you see Nigerians, they flipping these meme coins left and right. Right? Because everybody understands this. And when you start to talk about this in America, people are just kind of like, dismissive. And it's wild to me that we're on the cups of this. CBDC's coming out, guys. Make no mistake. I think the government is going to try to roll this out. I give it a year or so. And this is why it's imperative that you have somebody in office like Trump that is not going to be going for this. And the reality is, in other countries, like he just mentioned, in Canada, I remember that because I made a video on it on my Patreon where they were able to freeze the assets for the truckers to get Bitcoin. See, guys, when you have governments that try to enforce rules and acts of tyranny, then we as the people have to stand up and say, we're not gonna take it. But instead, people have become so docile that people think, well, ain't nothing I can do about it. People have become so docile that your government is basically telling you, hey, we're going to enforce an act of big brother on you. And people are just like, well, there's nothing I can really do, but, you know, it is what it is. No. You have a voice. This is one of the reasons why it's important to go and vote. This is one of the reasons why it's important to write your congressman or your senator. This is one of the reasons why I talk about crypto the way I do, because I'm very passionate, and you guys can hear it in my voice. I'm very passionate when it comes to being in control of your own sovereignty. They've been robbing us for millennia, for years. Now it's time back to take back our power that we've given away to these bureaucrats, these manipulative, wicked, you know what I'm saying? Let's continue.
Central bank digital currency takes us further in that direction. Well, I explained that to Donald Trump, and I give him a lot of credit for being intellectually open, getting to the bottom of it. He took advice from a couple of other people who he trusted around him. A few nights later, I saw him mention that. And again, last night when he and I were at that rally together, came out strongly in favor of what I believe is the right answer, which is to oppose the creation of a central bank digital currency. And I was proud last night to also see him talking about free speech and the value of free speech and open expression in the United States, something that the Democrats have abandoned, which I think will be one of the keys to a landslide election victory this fall. It's also why I think many libertarians, not even traditional Republicans, but libertarians in New Hampshire are going to come out and vote for Donald Trump today. I believe they already are over the course of today. That's part of what's going to make this a decisive win today, and I believe a decisive win in November.
All right, and we'll leave it on that note. Vivek Ramaswamy, thank you so much for joining.
And guys, let me say this. I know I'm yelling and stuff, but shout out to Vivek Ramaswamy because, guys, what the word I was looking for was corrupted government officials, okay? Guys, I posted a video clip last year that I can't really get into detail because of YouTube, talking about world-renowned economist Richard Werner. He gave an interview not too long ago speaking on the fact that they have the technology for CBDCs ready to go. They've actually had it for nearly a decade, since 2015, and that they have a chip that they want to implant in people's hand, okay? Now, I know that there are people that say, oh, Christians are tripping, this and that, but in Revelations, it talks about what the mark of the beast is in people's hands and also on their foreheads. And Richard Werner, and by the way, guys, the clip is still here. For those who want to see the whole video, you can go on my Patreon. But Richard Werner is not some hack, guys. He is the guy that came up with the idea and the train of thought and the economic policy of quantitative easing. That helped Japan back in the mid-90s, back in 94, 95. And Japan's economy has been Gucci for the most part since. So Richard Werner, guys, is not some sort of a conspiracy hack that's sitting in his basement with tinfoil hat on making crazy assertions. This guy is very well known in his field, and this guy has been exposing a lot of this, okay? And so, guys, the reason why I'm not rocking with CBDCs, you guys already know how I feel about that, right? Because now they can freeze your assets. They can track everything you do. And I know people say, well, they can already do that. But now when you get rid of cash, now they can track everything you do. Then also, if you're trying to convert it into another CBDC, that's going to be a hassle. That's one of the reasons why XRP is going to come through, because India ain't going to try to deal with America's CBDC. Nigeria ain't going to be trying to deal with Brazil's CBDC. So they're going to need to have a middle form of currency that's not owned by one entity. And that's where one of the reasons where XRP and XLM, they're going to come in, okay? But guys, I really need people to understand that this is serious. CBDC is not just an American thing. It's not just a China thing. It's a global thing. They want to turn this whole thing into a one world currency. And we in the crypto space are the last line of defense. And that's what people don't understand. We are the fighters of this. If we don't stand up for it, ain't nobody else gonna stand up for it. God bless America. God bless the world. It's your boy Jones, and I'm out. Peace.